evangelical Christians are finally abandoning Trump in a much larger extent than we've seen before, because they've lost their previous best excuse to support Trump, even though he has so many flaws, to put it mildly, and even policies that are destructive to evangelical churches themselves. The main argument that evangelicals as well as Catholics have used to continue to support Trump, even though he has become increasingly authoritarian, refuses to acknowledge elections that he loses, even though a lot of the migrants that he is demonizing, calling rapists and murderers and people who have escaped asylums are Christians, a lot of them being evangelical and Catholic Christians. Their main argument has been, well, he's pro-life. And so that has been the main motivator for a lot of evangelical Christians to continue to support Trump as the voting bloc in the US that is most pro-Trump of them all. White evangelicals have supported Trump more than any other voting bloc in the US. But that doesn't work anymore because Trump has admitted that he's not pro-life. Now, obviously, a lot of us Trump critics have been pointing out that Trump has not been consistently pro-life at all. If you're truly pro-life, you don't just value life in the womb. You value life overall. And Donald Trump's policies on, for example, climate change is extremely destructive. Now, many evangelicals outright deny climate change, and so they don't care about that. But still, a significant portion of evangelicals acknowledge the scientific truth that there is a climate crisis going on. And since Donald Trump is going against what the science demands that politicians should do on basically every level, during his last presidency, he tore down the Paris Agreement, he forbade the Environmental Protection Agency to even talk about climate change, and he cut funding for many climate projects while increasing the emissions of fossil fuels. According to several reports and scientific studies, up to 3 billion people could lose their home this century if the climate crisis isn't solved by much more ambitious targets and goals and practices that, for example, stops emitting fossil fuels the coming 5 to 10 years. Obviously, a Trump presidency would do the opposite of that and could speed up the process of 3 billion people, primarily in areas that has been unreached by the gospel, primarily non-Christians in Central Asia and South Asia. They will lose their homes, as several projections of what we could come see in an increasingly warm climate is that a fifth of the Earth's land surface would be as uninhabitable as Central Sahara. So we're talking about possibly 1 billion kids or even more that not only would lose their homes, they would lose their access to clean water, they would naturally come into conflict zones. It would be a total disaster. So to be consistently pro-life really means that you should pay attention to the climate science. But even if you disregard all of that, despite the claim that Trump was a peace president, that he was the only one who hasn't started a war and so on, Trump nearly started a war with Iran. And this has been documented in extensive detail. He was stopped by his advisors and his generals, but he nearly started a war between the United States and Iran that obviously would kill a lot of children. Trump's response to the corona pandemic was disastrous. He changed his mind over and over again. He promoted things that did not at all stop the virus, and he was very late in implementing restrictions so to combat the virus, and even went against his own health officials. That led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Americans, including a lot of children and pregnant women. So again, the fact that Trump has not been consistently pro-life is something that people like me have pointed out over and over again. But Trump has now reverted his stance on abortion. So Trump used to be pro-choice before he entered politics as a Republican. And in order to gain more votes among liberals and among women, he has now reverted the pro-life stance not only for himself, but for the whole Republican Party. And a lot of people don't know this, but no prior Republican president managed to get rid of the pro-life stance in the Republican Party platform. George W. Bush didn't do it, Mitt Romney didn't do it, but Trump has managed to do it. Trump pressured Republican politicians to remove their demand for a national abortion ban, because Trump knows that the demands of a national abortion ban is very unpopular in the US today. Trump has also recently stated that his administration will be great for women and their reproductive rights, which is language copied and pasted from the Democratic Party platform. Trump has publicly opposed Florida's proposed abortion law that would restrict abortion to 6 weeks pregnancies. And Trump has said that he's opposed to a national abortion ban should that come up. Not only that, the abortion rate went down during Barack Obama's reign as president, but during Trump's administration, it actually went up. Likewise, there's no evidence that the termination of Roe versus Wade, which Donald Trump takes credit for, has decreased abortion rates in any way across the United States. And think of all the things that evangelical Christians have excused Trump for because they view him as pro-life. They have excused that he's a pathological liar. They have excused all his crimes and felonies. They have excused his racist conspiracy theories that in a lot of cases are directed at Christians, Haitian Christians, and Mexican Christians, and other kinds of Christians. They have excused how he attempted to overthrow an election, how he assembled a violent mob and directed it to march to the Capitol. And even though it was afterwards clear that several of the people that took part in the January 6th mob were threatening to kill Trump's own vice president, Mike Pence, and were extremely violent, Trump has defended them, applauded them, called them great patriots. He has had fundraisers for them. And of course, he has said that he will pardon them if he's elected to be president again. All of this has been excused by a lot of evangelical Christians in the US because they say, well, Trump is pro-life. And he's not even pro-life anymore. Pastor Ben Marsh really put it well when he wrote on Twitter, "People who did not grow up in evangelical political spaces have no idea how disorienting it is to be told for 30 years, A, you could not vote for a morally bad person, B, you had to vote for a pro-life candidate, only to now be told that you have to vote for a pro-choice felon." And theologian Peter Wiener writes in The Atlantic, "The evangelical movement comprises tens of millions of Americans. Many of them are people of integrity and faithfulness. My own life has been profoundly enriched by its adherents. But we cannot deny what is true. Much of the evangelical world has validated many of the words indictments of the secular world. There are so many scandals, so much cynicism and hypocrisy, so much to grieve. Much of what evangelicals and fundamentalists have claimed to stand for, certainly in the realm of politics and culture, turns out to have been an affectation, an illusion. They want power and revenge. Donald Trump Jr., in channeling the attitudes of many Trump supporters, said at a Turning Point USA gathering in 2021 that the teachings of Jesus have, quote, gotten us nothing. So this is why a lot of evangelicals are finally abandoning Trump. Now, of course, I would have wished that they've done so much sooner. I think that to be consistently pro-life, you also need to care about the poor and the immigrants. You need to care about the environmental issues. You can't believe in these crazy conspiracy theories that try to diminish all of the real problems out there in the world, because there are not only unborn children that need care and support, but so many children who are already born across the world that are impacted by the life choices of Americans and other people in the Western world. But if nothing else, I'm glad that many evangelicals are finally seeing the light, finally abandoning Trump when they realize that their vote for him wouldn't decrease abortion rates at all. And when you also consider that there are many other issues that have great importance when it comes to preserving the life of the vulnerable, then obviously Trump and his kind of conservatism is not what you should go for. Thank you for watching, and God bless you.